We thank God for this day, and we are here for a presentation from Effa Mote on health issues. So she also provides us other support services within the community, which she will talk to you about because of the presentation. Let us pray, and I'll hand over to her. Father, we just thank you for this day. We give you every praise and every honor for the opportunity. We commit the day into your hands. Begin it with us, continue it with us, and end it with us in Jesus' name. Amen. Without wasting any time, I hand over to Effa. It's all yours now. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm very privileged to be here today in conjunction with the EP Church, who wishes its members long life and prosperity. And when you wish for long life and prosperity, you don't just sit down and wish. There's some actions you have to take to ensure that you receive that. So I hope everybody sort of picks things up from here and can take them into their own life and start improving their health. So today I'm going to talk to you about how to improve your metabolic health naturally. I want to tell you a little bit about myself. So I'm a pharmacist and I've worked in the NHS for over 32 years. I recently retired from the NHS about 18 months ago to pursue lifestyle medicine. So I attended secondary school in Ghana, and as I was growing up, I realized that once you get to a certain age, you will either develop high blood pressure and heart problems or diabetes or both. And I thought that it was a prerequisite that everybody would get it. And then I came to the UK and I became a pharmacist. And during my training and my education, I was a clinical pharmacist. I was working in hospitals. And I realized that, yes, this was it. Once you get diabetes, that's the end. You're just going to have more and more medication, the same with blood pressure. And that's how the NHS treats patients. So I thought that, well, I could beat that. And what I would do is I would start exercising. So I would say, in 2002, I started exercising and I thought I was doing really, really well until I was around 50 and I went to see the GP and the GP said, well, your blood pressure's creeping up, which it was like 134 over 80 something. And also my HbA1c, which is a measure of diabetes, was creeping up. And the doctor said to me, but, what we can do is we realize that if we start medication early, then you will not develop diabetes soon. It will be much, much later. And I was a bit shocked because at the time I was exercising, I was running 10K every week, and I was going to the gym, and I thought I was eating healthier. And I was really disappointed. and I really didn't want to go on medication. So I thought to myself, there must be something else that I'm doing wrong. So I said to the GP, and this was over 10 years ago, I said to the GP, let's hold back the medication and I will go and do my own research. And the GP said to me, good luck. When you decide to take your health into your own hands and a doctor says to you, good luck, it's very, very worrying. But I decided not to take the medication. Wanted to put me on a statin and on metformin. The metformin is for diabetes. And then I went and did my own research. And I found that even people who were running marathons once a week were still having the same problem. And then I found this community that practiced lifestyle medicine. And within that community, people were managing to live long into their 80s without any of these problems. So I'm going to talk to you today about how to improve your metabolic health naturally without medication and how to thrive with your health rather than just manage it. Okay, here we are. So I am a health and wellness coach, and I'm not intending to treat, diagnose, or prescribe or cure any disease or condition. It's not, and the information you're going to receive here is not intended to substitute the advice that you get from your own doctor. So do not use the advice in this presentation as a substitute for the care your doctor gives you. I always say, take your medication, and as your health improves, go and see your doctor, and your doctor himself will, or herself, they will reduce your medication. I'll be sharing information that I've gathered from others, and I'm encouraging you to do your own research. However, as a pharmacist, I'm happy to privately discuss any medicines with you. And should I pick up any issues, I will refer you back to your GP to have a discussion about those issues with your GP. So I'm sure everyone's heard you need to eat less and move more to improve your health. But today I'm going to demonstrate to you that that doesn't work. And it doesn't work because that's not how our bodies respond to this kind of intervention. Okay, so what is metabolic health? It's a health that means that your body can use energy from food effectively. Now, if it's about food, why are we not using food to treat ourselves? Why are we rather using medication? Okay, so when you have good metabolic health, your blood sugars are stable, your blood pressure and your cholesterol will be good, and you would have a healthy weight. Now, this is all controlled by insulin. I know lots of people feel it's only for blood sugar, but insulin is a really important hormone, but we need to keep it in the right place. So if your insulin is working well, then your metabolism is healthy, and you would reduce the risk of getting diseases like diabetes, heart problems, cancers, and so many other conditions. One of insulin's main functions is to control glucose and to let glucose into blood cells. Now, so if insulin is working normally, what it would do is it will go to the cells in your body, and then it will open up a door and let the blood sugar in. And however, if your cells get engorged with too much blood sugar, then they stop responding to insulin. So when insulin comes to open the door, the cells will start ignoring the insulin. However, that means that the blood sugar is not getting into the body cells, but it's accumulating in the blood. And if it accumulates in the blood, then the pancreas senses that there's too much sugar in the blood. So what does the pancreas do? It releases more and more insulin. So when the cells are not letting the blood sugar in, and the insulin's not working, it's called insulin resistance. And when the pancreas releases more and more insulin, it's called hyperinsulinemia, meaning that there's too much insulin in the blood. Now, so what is metabolic syndrome? And this is diagnosed when someone has 3 or more of these. High blood glucose. So when you wake up in the morning and you test your blood sugar and it's more than 5.6, that's one of the symptoms. If you have low levels of the so-called good cholesterol, that's HDL, and if it's less than 1. If you have high triglycerides in your blood, that's above 1.5. And if you have a waist circumference that is greater than 40 inches for men and greater than 35 inches for women, then you are said to have insulin resistance. And if your blood pressure is above 135/85. So the doctors will say you have metabolic syndrome if you have 3 or more of these conditions. So here we are. Body fat, so belly fat. It's called visceral fat medically, but most people know it as belly fat. So here you can see some pictures of some people, someone who has normal fat distribution and someone who has abnormal fat distribution, which is the belly fat. Now, one thing that people don't realize, people feel that belly fat is just extra fat around the tummy, but it's not. It's actually an organ. It's like, your heart, your kidneys, your liver. It's an endocrine organ, and it doesn't just store energy, but it also has a lot of hormones that it produces. And it disrupts many systems in your body. So this is why belly fat is more dangerous than fat stored under the skin. So let's say you have fat on your thighs, fat on your arms, and fat on your butt. That fat is not dangerous. But once you start building belly fat around your tummy, it is very dangerous because it produces a lot of hormones, and it disrupts a lot of problems. And I'm going to show you the kind of hormones it produces. Now, don't worry about these pictures because I generated them from AI, so they're not real people, right? Okay, so belly fat sends out chemical signals and hormones that harm health. Now, insulin, for instance, is not produced by belly fat, but it causes the insulin resistance that I talked about earlier. It causes high blood sugar, blood pressure, and weight gain. So the belly fat makes the pancreas produce more and more insulin. And then there's another hormone called leptin that is produced by belly fat. And it is when it's produced in excess, when you have a lot of belly fat and you have a lot of leptin, the brain no longer sees this hormone, and it makes you eat more and it makes you feel hungry. And there's one called adiponectin as well that's produced by the belly fat, and the levels drop when you get more and more belly fat, and therefore you can't burn your fat. You have reduced insulin sensitivity, and you're more at risk of diabetes. And then cortisol as well. Belly fat increases cortisol activity, and the more fat you have, the higher your blood pressure will be, and that would affect your sleep as well. And estrogen, this was when I realized this, when I was doing the research, I was very shocked. So belly fat converts hormones into estrogen. So in women, this causes a higher risk of breast and ovarian cancer. And in men, it causes low testosterone and reduces fertility. So this belly fat it's not just sitting there, it's causing a lot of problems. So we need to get that belly fat down. And then it also produces inflammatory cytokines, and this causes chronic inflammation, heart disease, fatty liver, and accelerates aging, so it makes us old quicker. And then also it doesn't produce growth hormone, but it suppresses growth hormone, and that causes reduced muscle, causes more fat storage, and makes your bones weak. So belly fat is really dangerous. So when people say, oh, if you have belly fat, increases your risk of cardiovascular disease, these are the reasons why. So when you have metabolic syndrome, these are the main health problems that are associated with it: heart disease, cholesterol problems, hypertension, type 2 diabetes, dementia. People call it type 3 diabetes these days, and cancers, polycystic ovarian syndrome, which affects younger women, and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Now, when I was a young pharmacist about 30 years ago, all the people who were admitted with fatty liver disease were alcoholics. But right now, apparently, those on the waiting list for liver transplants are those who have fatty liver disease that is not caused by alcohol. And therefore, that condition is called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and it is on the rise. So many people have it. Right, okay. So I told you that our problems are caused by insulin resistance, which is insulin signals being ignored, and high levels of insulin, which is hyperinsulinemia. But I've just written it simple so people can understand. Now, so the problems these cause is like cancer, sleep apnea, obesity, lipid problems, diabetes, dementia, PCOS, as I said, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, blood pressure, and autoimmune conditions. But when you go to the GP with any of these conditions, let's say you went with sleep apnea, lipid problems, and diabetes, they're going to give you a breathing apparatus, they're going to give you a statin and several different medicines for diabetes. Or if you went with blood pressure issues, they'll give you lots of blood pressure medication. So, why are we treating the diseases rather than with medication, rather than sorting out the main cause, which is the high insulin levels and the insulin resistance? So people say that, okay, I've got belly fat. So what I'll do is I will rather eat less to get rid of the belly fat. And I just want to demonstrate to you why cutting your calories doesn't help, because insulin resistance keeps the insulin levels high. So if you cut your calories and you still eat the same food, your insulin is still going to be high. So you can't sort of burn the extra fat, and you'll find it very difficult to get rid of the belly fat. High insulin blocks the fat from being used as energy, so you cannot tap into it, you can't burn it. Reducing calories alone will not fix your blood sugar or your hormone imbalances, and you might lose some weight, but it will be very, very slow. But at the end of the day, hunger always wins. You do it for a little while and you will feel hungry and you'll have cravings, and you really can't stick to a low calorie plan. It's very, very difficult. So I want to focus on insulin. Now, I'm going to be asking you some questions. So there's going to be a quiz. So do listen carefully so you can answer the quiz. Okay, so insulin is an essential hormone. It's not a bad hormone. God has given it to us for a reason, and it has many, many roles, including muscle growth, fat storage, which we've spoken about, and blood pressure regulation. So without insulin, many body functions will fail. And that's what we see in type 1 diabetes, where they don't have any insulin, and therefore if it's not injected into them, they will die. There's so many problems with that. So that's why people, if you can't produce insulin, you have to have it injected. Okay, very, very important. But what we know most people know insulin for, it regulates blood sugar, and it regulates it to, let's say an adult has about 5 liters of blood. In your blood, the optimal level of blood sugar is 1 teaspoon. And that's the level at which insulin tries to keep our blood sugar down to. Any deviation from this 1 teaspoon to your body will act to bring it back down, okay? And will do it by taking the glucose and putting it into cells for energy. And if your blood sugar drops, your liver will produce sugar from the substrates and the food it has, and from fat, to bring the level back up. So that optimal level is very, very important. Okay. Now, I want to talk about insulin and obesity. So, putting on weight. As I said, it regulates fat storage. When insulin levels are high, it will stimulate fat cells to take up glucose and turn it into fat. Therefore, let's say you had a meal that had lots of carbs in it, then your will be high, insulin levels go up, and it's like, oh, what can we do with this blood sugar? Let's turn this blood sugar into fat, and it will store it. So excessive glucose exposure leads to continuous high insulin secretion, and that is where we have the high levels of insulin, which is called a hyperinsulinemia. I just want to say high levels. You don't really need to learn these words because they're quite long and complicated, but high levels of insulin will change that glucose into fat. Now, fat cannot be burnt if your levels of insulin are high. So if your insulin is always high, you will never be able to get rid of the excess fat. And on the right here, these are people who have type 1 diabetes, and they've continuously injected themselves with insulin in one area. And you can see that fat has developed in those areas. The first picture is someone's tummy where they injected insulin, and you can see the fat has developed and they can't burn it. So in the presence of high insulin, you will store fat. And then also for the bottom picture, that's someone's legs where they've injected insulin and the fat has developed there. So even our own insulin that we produce from our pancreas is making us store fat if we keep it high. And that's the cause of weight gain. Now, so does diabetes develop suddenly? Because a lot of people say, oh, I was very well. And then I went to the doctor and he said, I've got diabetes. No, diabetes doesn't develop suddenly. Diabetes is related to insulin. And as you can see, we measure diabetes by measuring something we call an HbA1c. Okay, so insulin is produced to keep our blood sugars low. And then over the years, the green line on this graph is where our insulin is below the diabetes, our blood sugar is below the diabetes level. But over the years, you can see that we need to produce the black line, more and more insulin to keep our blood sugar below the level at which we would be said to have high blood sugar levels. And then it gets to above the HbA1c of 42, and that's where the doctors will say between 42 and 48, you have pre-diabetes. That's what is pre-diabetes, because your blood sugar levels are above the level of 42, but they are below the level of 48. When the blood sugar gets above the level of 48, you are diagnosed with diabetes. But what has happened then? We've had the insulin levels slowly creeping up, working hard to try and keep the levels below the 42. But after that, the insulin is produced by the pancreas. The pancreas gets tired and the beta cells get burnt out, and they can no longer produce as much insulin required to keep these blood sugar levels down. The insulin being produced by your body slowly falls down and your blood sugars shoot up. And then the doctors say, yes, you have diabetes now. But this whole process takes from 10 to 20 years. And when you go to the GP and they measure your blood sugar, they're only measuring your blood sugar and like, yeah, you're fine, your blood sugar's fine, it's within the range. But they are not measuring the amount of insulin that is required to keep your blood sugar down to that level. And if doctors were to start measuring insulin, there could be an early warning sign. Oh, look, Effa, you're using too much insulin to keep your blood sugar low. You need to do something about it. Okay. Right, so here's our first quiz. True or false? Does glucose, this is about insulin. So insulin allows glucose to enter cells to be used as energy. Insulin is a growth hormone. Is it associated with the regulation of blood pressure? And is it only injected insulin that can cause weight gain? So here are the answers. Yes, insulin allows glucose to enter our blood cells to be used as energy. Insulin is a growth hormone. It helps us store fat and it helps us build muscle. It's also associated with the regulation of blood pressure, and it's not only injected insulin that causes weight gain, it is our own insulin that causes weight gain. Okay, so let's understand how our food affects blood sugar. So when we eat food, our food is divided into only 3 macronutrients, and that's carbohydrates, fats, and protein. So the steady lines, the thick lines here on this graph is the amount of insulin we need to push the blood sugar into the cells. And as you can see, if you have a healthy metabolism and you eat a high carbohydrate meal, 2 hours after you've eaten, the blood sugar should have returned to normal. And however, it also causes the carbohydrate meals, causes the highest spike in insulin. So the second highest spike is caused by protein. And again, you can see that sort of, the spike is not so high. So if you had protein, your insulin wouldn't spike so high. And fat causes the lowest insulin spike. Now, if you eat a lot of carbohydrate meals all the time, all day, this puts extra stress on your pancreas to produce a lot of insulin, and which over time can lead to this high level of insulin that we are trying to avoid, and the insulin resistance. Many years of this can cause pancreatic cell death and diabetes, and that's how diabetes develops. So where does the sugar in our diet come from? So when I speak to clients about the lifestyle, they always say, well, I don't eat sugar anymore. I really avoid sugar, so there's no sugar in my diet. Yet they have insulin resistance and they're overweight and inflamed and they can't sort it out. So this is where the sugar comes from. So we all know that we have glucose in table sugar. So table sugar is formed from 1 molecule of glucose and 1 molecule of fructose. And then we have glucose in milk. So, and that's called milk sugar. So milk sugar is made up of 1 molecule of glucose and 1 molecule of galactose. So again, you can see people are drinking like glasses of milk and they say, no, I don't take any sugar, but you're getting glucose from the milk. And then starch molecules are just many glucose molecules holding hands. So we have low GI starch molecules, and these are glucose molecules that are holding hands even tighter. So it takes a lot more to break them down. And you find that in some fruits and vegetables. You find it in beans and pulses, whole grain foods, and porridge oats. That's unprocessed porridge oats. And then you have the high GI starches, and these are glucose molecules, again, holding hands, but less tightly. And you find these in sugar and sugary foods, soft drinks, white breads, potatoes, and white rice. So you can see that in all these foods, there's glucose, and that's where the blood sugar is coming from. And a lot of people say to me, oh, but I only eat like brown rice, brown bread, brown spaghetti and whole grain spaghetti and all that. And that's not going to affect me. And I don't know why I'm not well. But as you can see, your body, when you eat these things, your body just sees them as sugar. So let's say you ate 150 grams of white rice, your body might see that as 9.6 teaspoons of sugar. Now, let's remember, for our body to work in the optimal way, we only need 1 teaspoon of sugar. So if you had that 150-gram bowl of rice, your body is going to produce a lot of insulin to work hard to bring the 9.6 grams of table sugar down to 1. So that is going to work hard. If you're metabolically healthy, like you're a teenager, that's going to help work very, very quickly. But if you've been doing that for years and years and years, this is where we fall into problems. And that's why we're developing the belly fat. And then the brown rice, yes, the teaspoons might be less, but it's 7.3. So your body is still going to have to work. And then we look at brown bread and the difference between that And white bread, again, is only 2 teaspoons difference. So now you can see where the problem is. So it doesn't matter what you're eating, as long as it's carbohydrates, your body's going to have to work hard to bring the level down to 1 teaspoon. But when you eat things like broccoli, which is also a carbohydrate, it has very, very little sugar in, lots of fiber. One thing that you have to know is that our bodies will not differentiate between the types of sugars ingested. The only differentiation is in your brain. When it goes into your body knows what to do with it, and it's going to have to struggle to bring those sugars down. So can exercise help? Over the summer, I've been away here and there, and I just went back to the gym recently, and I was very shocked because one of my gym buddies, we'll call him Mr. Joe Bloggs, he goes to so many gym classes. He goes to strength and conditioning 3 times a week. He goes to body pump at least twice a week. This is where I see him. He might be doing more. He plays football once a week. He goes to the sauna at least 3 times a week. And this summer I heard that whilst he was walking, he collapsed and he had a heart attack and had to go to a hospital to have a stent. His lifestyle was, he'd eat a lot of junk food and he was a social alcohol drinker. So here we are, someone who's exercising amazing. He's doing so many gym classes, really pushing himself in the body pump classes. He's using heavy, heavy loads, but he collapsed and needed a stent. So you can't out-exercise a bad diet. If your diet is poor, it doesn't matter the amount of exercise you do, you're not going to be healthy. Right. Now let's look at carbohydrate meal frequency, blood sugar, and insulin levels. So what usually happens is, remember, 1 teaspoon is the optimal level of blood sugar for us. So if we wake up in the morning and have a carbohydrate breakfast, then the green line is the blood sugar and the gray line is the insulin. So the blood sugar spikes, then the insulin from the pancreas hears it, and then it's going to produce insulin to bring that blood sugar down. And then at lunchtime, we're going to have another carbohydrate meal, and the same thing happens, and the same thing happens in the evening. And remember, our body is fighting to keep our blood sugar within that tight range, that 1 teaspoon of sugar. But is that how we eat? We don't normally eat that way. A lot of the time, we would have our breakfast, which will have carbs, and then we'll have a snack mid-morning, and then we'll have lunch, and then we'll have a snack and dinner. And just before we go to bed, we need another snack. And whilst this is all happening, you can see our blood sugar is not returning to normal, and neither is the insulin. So this is where the high levels of insulin persist, and therefore we can't burn the fat, the body fats. So this is our second quiz. Let's think about it. What's the optimal amount of sugar in our blood as an adult? Remember, we have 5 liters of blood. Is it 4 teaspoons, 4 tablespoonfuls, 1 teaspoon, or I can't see that 1 tablespoonful? Yep. What food groups increase insulin production the most? Protein, fats, carbohydrates, or vitamins and minerals? And in a healthy person, how long after eating would you expect blood sugars to return to normal? Is it 20 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, or 4 hours? And here are the answers. Hang on, there we go. Yeah, it's only 1 teaspoon in our blood. So if you eat something that has a lot of teaspoons, you remember people say 1 glass of Coca-Cola has 9 teaspoons of sugar in it. Yeah, your body is going to have to work hard to bring that back down to the 1 level. And what food group increases insulin production most? It's carbohydrates. And in a healthy person, after eating a carbohydrate-rich meal, you would expect your blood sugar to get back to that 1 teaspoon in 2 hours. If you have insulin resistance, this could take 4 hours or even longer. And when you go to bed, your blood sugar can be high all the time, and that causes a lot of damage to the system. So Insulin and obesity. We are not ill because we are overweight. People think, oh, I'm overweight, that's why I'm not well. No, no, no. We are overweight because we are ill. And we need to fix that health so that once you start sorting out the health part of it, the weight just comes off naturally. Okay, and this is just a trivia fact. How do farmers fatten cows? If you Google it, they give cows a lot of grains and they get fat, and then they go and slaughter them and sell them, because when they get fat, they get more money, isn't it? And we're eating grains thinking that we're going to lose weight, like the special Ks and the shredded wheats and things like that. That's not going to help us lose weight, because animals, they give them grains to gain weight. So we need to think about that. And now the final thing, because I talked about obesity and I talked about diabetes. Now I'm going to talk about insulin and blood pressure. So when our insulin levels are constantly high, it causes our kidneys to retain sodium and water. In our arteries, the vasoconstriction, so constriction of our arteries goes up by certain chemicals in our blood due to high insulin. And also insulin normally stimulates nitric oxide, which helps relax the arteries. But when there's insulin resistance, insulin can't work and our arteries cannot relax, and therefore our blood pressure goes up. And there's many, many other mechanisms, and the net result is our blood pressure is very, very high. So this is the final quiz. So how long does it take to develop diabetes? 1 to 2 years, 10 to 20 years, 3 to 4 years, 30 to 40 years. What role does high levels of insulin play in our body? It helps us burn fat, or it helps us store fat, or does it help us lower our blood pressure? Does it remove sugar from your blood and store it in your cells? How does high levels of insulin affect blood pressure? It makes the kidneys retain fluid. It makes the kidneys retain sodium. It helps lower the blood pressure. And these are the answers. It takes 10 to 20 years to develop diabetes. High levels of insulin helps us store fat, and it removes sugar from your blood and stores it into the cells, trying to keep your organs safe from the high levels of sugar. And then also high levels of insulin affect blood pressure by making the kidneys retain fluids and sodium. That's it. Okay, so how do I know whether I have insulin resistance or high levels of insulin? So most people say to me, oh, I'm really healthy, I'm just a little bit overweight, my blood results are all in range, especially my morning blood sugars, and then they say my blood pressure is under 130/80. But you will know if you have insulin resistance if your waist to height ratio is wrong. So if your height is less than 2 times your waist circumstance. So what you need to do is just measure your waist and multiply it by 2. And if that number is higher than your height, then you know you have insulin resistance. And that's a very good measure for Black people, because the BMI doesn't really work very well for us Black people because we have more muscle, so we are much heavier. And so therefore, if your waistline is in men is greater than 40 inches and in women greater than 35 inches, you know you have insulin resistance or high levels of insulin. And these are other signs. So if your blood pressure is higher than 130/80, if your fasting glucose level is greater than 5.6 in the morning when you wake up without eating, your blood sugars are higher than that. And there are other tests GPs can do. And then also if you have skin pigmentation changes. So if you have skin tags, as you can see here, or if you have leathery skin and dark patches on your skin, it's called acanthosis nigricans, that's a sign of insulin resistance. And if you have something called xanthelasmia, so, like fatty deposits around your eyelids, then you have insulin resistance. But the good news is when you start eating insulin-lowering foods, these skin conditions all improve. Your skin really, really clears up. And the other symptoms are obviously weight gain, always craving for sugary foods, When you're hungry, you're very angry and you must eat, otherwise you don't feel settled. Feeling frequently hungry, so after eating, 2 hours later, you feel hungry, that's insulin resistance, difficulty in concentrating, feeling anxious and panicky and lacking focus or motivation, and especially feeling tired after eating. That's a sign of insulin resistance. But there is hope, lots and lots of hope, because prior to, I would say, like 2005, people felt that when you had these conditions, you just have more and more medication and eventually you will die from the problem. But now we know that we can naturally change these things around. So what we want to do is practice lifestyle medicine rather than wait for the medication that the GPs will give us that don't really help the situation. They're just like plasters. We want to practice lifestyle interventions. And what we would do is to improve your insulin resistance, reduce processed foods, reduce your carbs, because this is going to be a treatment. Try and manage your stress, improve your sleep. And if you have a sedentary lifestyle, try and walk, do something a bit more. If you walk and you still have the problem, then obviously you can do something else because you're more able. And also to stop eating seed oils. Those are oils that are manufactured in factories rather than eating the natural oils. But it takes years to develop insulin resistance, and therefore you can't practice this over 1 or 2 weeks or a month to improve it. It takes a while to get back to health, right? So there are 3 approaches to improving your metabolic health. One is bariatric surgery. So when that was bariatric surgery is, the surgery that they perform on people's stomachs to reduce the size so that they eat less. So that was introduced into the NHS, I don't know, about 6 years ago. And they noticed that people who underwent that operation, their metabolic health improved because obviously they weren't eating a lot of the rubbish food. Another thing that the NHS does here is they offer very low calorie diets. So that's about 800 calories formulated in a shake form over and they give it to you for 3 months. So you eat 800 calories every day over 3 months, and that tends to reverse the problem. However, it's not a natural approach because after the 3 months, what do? You have to go back to eating your food and the problem will come back again. And what I'm going to focus on here is something everybody can do without medical supervision, and that's therapeutic carbohydrate restriction. And the success depends on understanding the approach and adhering to it, especially within the first month. It's difficult, but if you can maintain it for 1 month, it just gets easier and easier. So the benefits are when you practice lowering your carbohydrates, your hunger goes away and you eat less often. You don't feel hungry all the time. The cravings for sugary foods and carbs goes away. Your skin will improve. So those skin tags get less and less and they drop off. You don't realize they're going, but insulin is a growth hormone and it's growing those skin tags. So once you bring the insulin down, they just start dropping off, okay? The weight loss starts. So normally for my clients, when I monitor them, I expect them to lose 0.5 kilo a week. Now you might think, well, that's not a lot. But the thing is, they've tried over years to lose any weight. And if you start losing 0.5 kilo a week, can you imagine how much weight you would have lost in 6 months? I had a client who lost 18 kilos in 6 months. Once he started. I mean, how that doesn't sound possible, but it is. Once your body starts healing, the weight just comes off. Your belly fat starts to reduce, your blood pressure and blood sugar normalizes, and that normally happens very, very quickly. Within the first month, you notice your blood pressure is better and your blood sugars, as for the blood sugars, they just respond really, really quickly. Your cholesterol and cardiovascular disease improves. Inflammation and pain improves. So pain just, you realize that, oh, when I walk up the stairs, my knees don't hurt as much anymore. It's just amazing. You get increased energy and mood, and your cognitive function, so that's the brain fog, improves, your sleep improves, and even your eyesight. And there's so many other benefits. Like insulin resistance affects people in very many different ways. So they always come back and say, oh, I noticed this got better, that got better, and what have you. And you just feel so much energy, like this Duracell bunny. Okay, so high levels of insulin can be controlled and reduced by lowering your carbohydrate intake. And I usually advise it's done over 2 to 3 weeks because it's very difficult. If you try and do it in one day, the cravings will be really, really bad. But if you're reducing your carbohydrates, you need to replace it with another energy source, and that is dietary fat. So people are normally scared of fat. So I teach people not to be scared of fat. It doesn't spike insulin. It doesn't clog your arteries like people say. That's not how the human body works. And you have to eat adequate protein as well. A lot of people are eating far too less protein, not enough protein to maintain their muscle mass as they get into older life. And then also, you need to keep your carbs low for 1 to 2 months without cheating, because you're teaching the enzymes in your body to adapt to another energy source. If you keep giving them glucose every now and then, the enzymes will not learn. Remember, the enzymes have been burning glucose for many, many, many years. So for them to change, you need to give them time. The body learns to start burning fat as fuel instead of glucose. That's called fat adaptation. And then you realize that you're not that hungry, and therefore you should only eat when you feel hungry. And for most people, this is twice a day. Normally they have just one main meal and a snack, and they're good. They just don't feel hungry. Then at some point, when your body is fat adapted, you can start reducing the amount of fat you're adding to your food, and then that extra fat that you're carrying, your body will start burning. Oh God, we're moving on. And then you eventually, when you heal, you get to where you need to be, you find your carbohydrate tolerance level. So when I coach people, I give support through this process because it is very, very difficult to do it on your own. So here's a study that showed, so when I say just eat when you're hungry, we also practice what we call time-restricted feeding or intermittent fasting. And it's shown that this study was done in October 2022. There was about 162 people on the study. And those who practiced the low carbohydrate diet alone lost over 3 months 2 kilos. Those who practice the time restricted eating, so that's the intermittent fasting, without changing their diet, they lost 3 kilos. So if you go away today and you don't do anything at all, if you try and just eat within an 8-hour window rather than eat over 12 hours or 16 hours, you might notice a change in your weight. But those who practice the carbohydrate, the low carb diet and the time restricted feeding together lost the most weight over 3 months. And that's what I recommend my clients do. So what can I eat? So we won't be eating anything on the left, but we'll be eating real food, as you can see on the right. So things that come straight from the farm, not anything that is processed. And I would suggest normally the food swaps that you can do to help you through your journey. And if you are buying processed things, you need to check the labels to make sure that there's no hidden sugar. There's about 56 different names for sugar. So you have to be very careful about that. Then the medication, really, really important. If you have diabetes, you need support in managing your medication. There's some medicines that you shouldn't be on if you practice low carbohydrate diets, and also blood pressure, that needs to be monitored carefully, and you need to be referred to the GP, keep records when your blood pressure is coming down, so the GP can stop some of the medication and it's not too strong for you, because we want to keep you safe whilst you go through this process. So I'm coming to the end soon. So what I offer, so when people sign up to my program, the client will share their health goals with me, their symptoms, they'll tell me about their medicines, and they'll give me their blood test results. And what I would do is I will review all this, I review the nutrition they're on, I'd look at the blood test and highlight any issues that I pick up on. And you will be surprised. People have kidney problems and all sorts, or blood pressure, and they're just on the wrong medication. You know, Black people, we don't, it's not all blood pressure medication that's good for us. People are on the wrong medicines. I will refer them back to their GP. I will write a letter because I've worked with GPs for over 20 years, about 23 years, and they know what the clinic, how helpful we, the clinical pharmacists, are. So when I write to your GP and I say, well, I'm a clinical pharmacist and I pick this issue up, straight away they act on it because they know that they will be liable if they do not act on the problems that I pick up. And I do this for many, many clients. I will also help you track your progress and flag when your dose change is needed for your medication. And this will be communicated via you. And if you feel you're not confident enough, I will give you a letter to take this to your GP, and the GP will act on those instructions. And I've helped so many people that way. You know, people are taking medication that's not good for them. People are taking medication at the wrong time. People have duplication of medication. People are suffering from side effects that nothing has been done about. And I pick these things up and send the client back to the GP, and the GP helps sort it out. So I run an 8-week program, and you get like a 1-hour consultation, and you get weekly instructions on how to make dietary changes. And also I give nutrition education and correct the misconceptions. Let's just go through here. Okay, here's some examples of food that people have eaten. Some are mine, some are for my clients. And I give lots of dietary examples and resources as to where you can get your food from. So the first one, sausage and vegetables. We have cauliflower rice mixed with vegetables and fish and gravy. We also have like eggs and avocado and grilled vegetables. Here's another one, grilled mackerel with stir-fried veg, stewed fried fish, avocado and stir-fried cabbage, tuna, egg and salad with grilled chicken. And here we just have a couple of meals that Ghanaians might like. So we say cabbage swallow, you know, the Nigerians call it swallow. So it's rather cabbage fufu with tilapia. And someone was very adventurous and they made some low carb kenke. Now, one of the issues is if you're going to follow a low carb meal, you have to be organized. You have to find a time to meal prep, because when you're on the go, it's very, very difficult to pop into a shop and find a low carb meal. So this is just one of my clients prepping for the week. Okay, and this is, they say, is it sustainable? Like in 2021, I contacted a lot of my clients, had been through the course, and I've shown like how long they had been on the course, what their starting weight was, and what the current weight was, and the amount they had lost. And when I added it all up, it came to nearly 300 kilograms, you know, over that period of time. So it is sustainable. I myself, I've been practicing it for nearly 10 years now. So, you know, I know it's sustainable. It works for me. Right, and here's some case studies. So this is a caterer in Ghana. She said she had painful joints, breathlessness when she exercised. She had problems climbing stairs and frequent heartburn and acid reflux. And look, she lost all the weight and she was thriving. So here's another lady. She did really, really well on the course, but her blood pressure wouldn't come down. Now, I don't just give nutrition advice to take. And then I was very shocked. Why isn't your blood pressure coming down? You've lost so much weight. You look fantastic. She's wearing the same dress here. And I found out that the advice that she should take magnesium, she wasn't taking it. And I think she stopped her vitamin D as well. And once she did that, within 2 weeks, the blood pressure came down. So it's not just about nutrition, it's what else you need to do to support your health. Okay, and here's a gentleman, he was 65 at the time, now he's much older, and he controls his blood pressure with therapeutic carbohydrate restriction. And he used to play tennis daily, for 7 years, never lost any weight, changed his diet, and within 4 months, he was down 7 kilos, which is fantastic. And then, he's in Ghana. One day he went on holiday. He thought he was doing exercise, so he started eating carbs again, and the blood pressure went up. And when he came back from his holiday in Ghana, and he got back to Ghana, he really, really struggled to get the blood pressure controlled. But once it was controlled again, that was it. So this person's now about 67, not on any medication, just using that to control his blood pressure. Very happy about that. And here is another gym buddy. She lost 5 kilograms in 6 weeks, and she had some dizziness upon rising in the morning, and that all went away. So as I said, everybody has different clinical symptoms that are caused by metabolic syndrome, and she's thriving. She just feels wonderful. Kidney disease improvement. We don't have too much time. Are we doing? Yeah, I've got 1 more minute. So call to action. So if you have metabolic syndrome, just, contact me and I can help you overcome it. And with time, either we can reduce your medication or even get you off it, and you will thrive going into your old age. Do carry out your own research. Reduce your processed foods if you don't even join whole grains and added sugar, and find substitutes to go with them, and start intermittent fasting. Don't eat all day long. Just try and eat within a window, and try some low carb meals. You can join a low carb Facebook group, or you can contact me and enroll on my 8-week lifestyle coaching course, because you will learn so much that you can carry forward into, your old age. Once you've learned it, you've learned it. That's it. I think we are done. So open to questions. Well, I think we have 9 questions in the chat. Let me see. Oh, yeah, people put answers. Oh, do I have clients in other countries? Oh, yes, I have clients all over the place. As you saw, 2 of my clients there were in Ghana, but I work with people in America, Canada. I think I had Bermuda at one point, in Nigeria as well. A Nigerian lady found me online. And I was very pleased about that. And I worked with her. So all over the place. Can you introduce carbs after the 3 months? Okay, so after the 3 months, the question you need to ask yourself, have I reached my health goal? In 3 months, I would expect you to have lost 6 kilos. Is that your health goal? How much are you overweight? And then also remember, developing metabolic syndrome takes many, many years. So your insulin, you might respond, your blood sugars might be better, but your insulin resistance is still there. So when you reintroduce the carbs, you might be undoing all the good work that you've done. So what I do say is, in 3 months, your body will become metabolically flexible and can burn carbohydrates as well as fats. So maybe once in a while you can have a carb meal, but you must be reverting back to the low carb to continue your healing. Yeah, okay. I would like to be able to eat some carbs such as kinky. And then also the thing is, when you start a low carb diet, or when you think about it now, you think, I'm going to suffer, it's going to be so difficult, but it really just does become quite easy. Okay, Erica, you have your hand up. You can, let me see. Yeah, speak.
Right, thanks. I've got 3 or 4 questions. I'm going to try and put all of them in one, not to take too much time. The first one is, is it possible to manage hereditary diabetes or gestational diabetes through this method? That's two questions in one. The second one is, we how does water therapy or drinking a lot of water helps to manage these health conditions like diabetes, blood pressure? And the last one is, if you can throw a light a bit more on what is that word again? The fasting bit.
Intermittent fasting, time
Intermittent
restricted
fasting.
feeding. Yes.
Yeah.
Gestational. What you said,
Gestational hereditary, which is that type 1 diabetes.
and time restricted feed eating. Okay. All right.
And water.
Oh yes, water. Water. What is it? Water therapy.
I've heard people use that, meaning just drinking a lot of water more than usual.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. So gestational and hereditary diabetes is gestational diabetes is like, when you get pregnant, you get physiological insulin resistance that is natural to help grow the baby. But for some women, this tips over into diabetes. So you have to be very, very careful, because at the time they might give you medication, it might get better, you might come off it, but you are more prone to develop diabetes. So you really, really need to watch it. And, patients or ladies who are pregnant and have gestational diabetes, what do you call it? Therapeutic carbohydrate restriction absolutely works for them, and they might not even have to go on medication. But if you are that type of person, you should know that you are allergic to carbohydrates, and you really, really need to watch the amount of carbohydrates you eat as you're pregnant and going forward. Reducing carbohydrates from, I think, childhood is absolutely recommended. These days, I think maybe a lot of us adults, we are a lot better off than what our children are, because our children are being brought up on cornflakes. And a lot of us, we didn't eat cornflakes when we were young. You understand? So our children are at risk of living with metabolic syndrome much earlier than we will, or we are at now. So it's really important. A lot of the lifestyle doctors, they have babies, and their babies are on low carb as soon as they're born. So really, really important to sort that out. When people say hereditary, for me, I just feel that, it means that we are born intolerant of carbohydrates. I don't think it, and if you think about our forefathers, they were hunter-gatherers. They never ate all this refined food. Everything made from flour. Wheat. We don't grow wheat in Africa. We don't grow wheat in West Africa, but we're eating it every day. So if we're developing metabolic syndrome, we are definitely not eating an ancestral diet. You understand? So we need to think about how these things are linked. You understand? So hereditary, for me, when people say, it's, all our families get it, so we're going to get it. If you can reverse it, then reverse it. It just means that we have the genes that make us intolerant of that food, and we need to sort it out. And then the other thing was the water therapy. I think drinking a lot of water, it's not a natural thing to do, but what it probably does is it makes your tummy full for a while, and therefore maybe you're able to eat less food. But I don't think it's the right way to go. When I coach them, I tell them, as long as they're eating the right food, they eat until they're full, and then they stop. There's no counting calories, there's no restriction. And if you eat that way, then the satiety hormone will tell your brain you're hungry, and you can go for hours without feeling hungry. What did you want to know about the time restricted eating? That's the intermittent fasting.
I know that this varies from person to person, but in general, if you were to give a general advice to everybody, what period would be the best time?
So I think for when I coach people, I personally find it easier to skip breakfast. You understand? Because the thing is, I find the evenings very, very long. And if I had breakfast and then I just had lunch, and if the evening is so long, I get bored. So I'd like to eat something in the evening. So I'd rather have like lunch and an evening meal, and then wait till lunch the next day to do the intermittent fasting. But then again, I always tell people it has to work with your lifestyle. If you feel that having breakfast and lunch is easier for you, then yes, do it that way. But it just has to fit in with your lifestyle. Right. Okay. We have Adam. Adam's hand is up. If you want to ask a question.
A question and contribution in a way, because I've been on your program when you first started it. You had a few women and I was on that one, and it worked really well for me. But from what you've said today, because I've kind of gone back eating carbohydrates, and what I gather from what you have said is actually planning what to eat, because I've tried it. I'm trying it again now, but it's really, you have to plan ahead, because you go to work and you go to the shops and there's nothing low carbs for you, or even if it is, there is some added sugar somewhere. So unless you plan, you have your meal preps done, it doesn't really help. You might go back. I've also done a bit of the water fasting, but it was in a group and there was a coach. That was before I came onto your program. And with that one as well, you don't just drink water. It's for a number of hours, and you will lose electrolytes. So the coach also shows you that you should take electrolytes, and she also talked about low carbohydrates. So it's not continuous. You cannot do water fast and lose weight just like that. It's something, it has to be done the way Effa is talking about at the moment.
Yes,
So, yeah.
thank you, Adam. So yes, one of the things that I get the clients to do is, I dispel the myths, and a lot of people are scared of salt. So I get them to introduce salt into their diet and into the fluids that they drink. Because when your insulin comes down, remember I told you insulin retains sodium and fluid. So when your insulin comes down, you're going to lose sodium and fluid, and you need to replace it. So it's really, really important that you're replacing the sodium and the fluid. So I say to them that make sure you make electrolyte solutions to support you as you go on a low carbohydrate diet. Yeah. Thank you very much, Adam, for that. We have Akofa.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask, because someone was telling me that not eating carbs at all puts stress on your body. Stress on your body. And so I want to ask, and I think you've mentioned like lowering it. So is it something like that? If I use as a lifestyle, it could help, because I think this week and last weekend, so Auntie Adam keeps saying the carbs. So I've lowered my carbs so much, and I did something like a stir fried, but a lot of vegetables and protein, and one scoop of rice into it and I had about 6 portions of that food, and I eat and I'm full, and if I'm feeling hungry again, I'll have something like that. So I want to know if it's something that I could use as a lifestyle, and I can see my body is changing, my hormones are changing, my blood pressure is going up, I'm getting a lot of achy in my legs, and just yesterday alone, I was able to. The pains were down. I went for a program and they were sharing donuts, and I didn't crave for it. I just let go, and so I just wanted to know if that lowering it is a good option, or eliminating it from my diet would be better, so that I could work towards that, because I've seen a few changes in my um in
Okay,
my body. Yeah.
yeah, thank you, Akofa. Yes, so absolutely lowering your carbohydrates. I think we were all eating far too much carbohydrates anyway, so lowering it will be a good thing. Now, I feel even for our children, if they ate lower carbohydrates, they probably won't develop insulin resistance as we did when we got to the ages we were. However, I must say, maybe Akof, I don't know how old you are. You're probably, you could be young enough to be metabolically flexible, but those of us with severe insulin resistance, just lowering the carbohydrates might not help us. We might need to treat it like a pill, like medication, and be very, very strict so that we can reverse the insulin resistance. So I'm happy that lowering it is helping you. So do continue. But if you do reach a health stall, then you know you might need to lower it even more. And even on a low carbohydrate diet, if you're less than 20 grams of carbs per day, you are on a low carbohydrate diet. So it would work for you. So I don't know how much you're using, but it is obviously working. And I would say just continue and see how you get on. But I do say that if you eliminate it completely, the results are much, much faster and you heal a lot quicker. But I think just carry on because you seem to be doing really, really well. One of the things that you have to think about is carbohydrates do not come with fat in nature. They only come as carbs. However, protein comes with fat. So, if you're taking your carbs and you're continuing to take high fat, that's not going to help you. It's really important that you try and eliminate the carbs and substitute that with fat for energy. And that's where you'll see the benefits even more. Okay, do we have questions in the chat? Let me see. Let me see, where are we? Okay, can you introduce carbs? Yeah, okay. Is glaucoma due to insulin resistance or genes? With a lot of these conditions, the lifestyle people say that genetics is the loaded gun and lifestyle pulls the trigger. So if you have glaucoma in your family and you don't change your lifestyle, the chances are that you will get glaucoma as well. So it's really, really important. When you do practice lifestyle medicine, there are so many conditions that you can avoid. Even if you've had cancer, for instance, and it's been treated and it's gone away. When you practice low carb, the chances of it recurring is much, much lower. And even if you have cancer and it's being treated and you practice low carb at the same time, it's more the chances of the therapy being effective is higher. You can just Google this. This is like evidence that's coming through in clinical papers. And one of the other things that I talk about is I always make sure everybody takes adequate levels of vitamin D. Because if your vitamin D is low, that will make all the conditions you have even worse. Okay, I think, yes, there's a recording available. Let me see. Thank you for telling me how informative it is. Can you fast when you're Yes, absolutely. So if you have hypertension and diabetes, yes, you can fast. Absolutely, you can fast. Because, a lot of the antihypertensive medications you don't have to take with food. But when it comes to diabetes, you need someone to support you, because I don't want people having hypos. I would prefer people with diabetes wear a continuous glucose monitor. And then also it depends on what medications you're taking with your diabetes, whether you can fast, and some adjustments will need to be made. And, a lot of people on a lot of medication, when they're on my course, they make me very nervous, and I keep checking with them. How is it going? Tell me this, tell me that, and what have you. So absolutely, you can fast. And as you fast, you notice that your fasting blood sugars are coming down, but you need to be kept safe. We need to know what you're doing, and we want to make sure that we can see what's happening with your blood glucose. Let me see. I have heard that dementia is type 3 diabetes. Is that true? Yes, absolutely. Now they're calling dementia type 3 diabetes, and it's insulin resistance in the brain. However, when you lower your carbohydrates, you start burning fat as fuel, and the byproduct is ketones. And that's where the keto diet comes in. And the ketones can cross the blood-brain barrier, and the brain can use that as a fuel. And you notice that a lot of people with dementia, their cognition improves when they do a low-carb diet. Yeah. Any more questions? Any hands up? Let me see. Let's try and open this. See if I can see. Any hands up? Any questions? You can just ask. You don't have to write it in the chat. How are we doing for time?
We've got a question about whether smoothies are healthy.
What? Sorry, smoothies. Yes. Thank you, Pearl, for that. Now, smoothies is an issue. So on the course, I talk about fruits, and I do talk about smoothies as well. So let's just talk about fruit in general. Now, the fruits we have today, the fruits that we go to the supermarkets to buy today, is very different from what our ancestors ate. And our ancestors only ate fruit in season. Our fruit now has been engineered and cultivated to be extra sweet. So I remember when like my kids were young, and I would go to the supermarket and I would buy oranges. Here you can't test the orange before you leave the supermarket. And on my way home, I'll be praying, oh God, let it be sweet. And sometimes they're sour. And if they're sour, people won't eat them, and they'll be there for a very long time. But now, when you go, nearly all the fruit is extra sweet. You understand? So, and not only is it extra sweet, we can eat fruit every day. If we want to eat a mango every day or 3 times a day, we can eat a mango. And we can do that 365 days of a year. Now, one of the things that we have in fruit is fructose. And fructose is a sugar, and it is not metabolized. Remember, I told you that glucose goes into our cells for energy. Well, fructose cannot be taken into our cells for energy. It has to go to our liver. When we have a lot of circulating glucose and the fructose goes to the liver has to metabolize it, and it stores it as fat. And that's where we get our fatty tummies from, our fatty livers, and all the problems that are associated with it. Now, the other thing is, when you buy fruit, it is better to eat the fruit than break down the fiber in a smoothie and drink it, because as soon as you drink it, it's going to make your blood sugar go straight up. But if you eat it with the fiber, then it's rather slow release into the system. So having smoothies is not a good thing. And, with most of these things, just think, how did our ancestors eat? That they kept the human race alive for over 300,000 years, and we were reproducing to today. You understand? They didn't have smoothies. Smoothies is a recent thing. So we want to try and stick as much as possible to our ancestral diet so that we remain healthy. Okay. Right. Can I fast while on blood pressure and water tablets? Yes, you can fast. When it comes to fasting, fasting is very difficult. But when you practice a low carb diet and you become fat adapted, your blood sugar remains level all the time. And you're tapping into the fats that you have on your body. So that makes fasting very, very easy. So I say to people who want to fast, make sure you are fat adapted before you start fasting, and then you can fast like a trooper. And everybody's suffering, but you'll be like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And you get so much energy and you'll feel awesome. So fasting is very, very good for reversing insulin resistance and hyperinsulinemia. Okay, any more questions? We're coming to the end of the chat. I don't see any. Oh, what causes kidney disease? Yes. Oh my goodness. That's a big question. So kidney disease is linked to insulin resistance. It's linked to the hormones we have. It's linked to blood pressure. So high blood pressure and the insulin and bombarding the kidney tubules, and then the kidneys retaining the fluid. There's something called aldosterone. It's a hormone that works on the kidney tubules, and it's feedback from the kidneys to the blood pressure, and your brain. It all works together, and it just sort of damages the high blood pressure, just damages the kidneys. And the worse the kidneys are, the worse the blood pressure, and vice versa. So I'd had many clients with poor kidney function. They do low carb and they take their electrolytes, and their kidney function improves. I worked recently with a gym instructor. She didn't even know she had kidney disease. She was instructing. She just had a little bit of weight around her belly. And she came to me and I said, okay, bring me your blood test from your GP. When I saw them, I was shocked. I said, did your GP tell you that your kidney function was poor? She goes, no. I looked at her medication. I'm like, one of these could be causing it. I sent it back to the GP, and then they referred her to a nephrologist. But whilst all this was taking place, she was practicing low carb, and her kidney function jumped from 57 EGFR to 65 whilst we were working. And since then, it's got even better. And her blood pressure was bad, that has improved, so it's all linked. And once you start eating the right food, you don't even need medication. Right. Okay, we have 2 hands up. We have Pastor Reverend Susie. You want to go?
Just want to ask, what kind of food can you suggest for breakfast if somebody wants to breakfast in the morning because of medical?
Okay. So usually, although my clients eventually move to time restricted feeding and they don't have breakfast, but I say for the first thing they need to do is have a protein breakfast. Now, I know a lot of people have oats and a banana for breakfast and things like that with berries. No. That will make your blood sugar go up. So I recommend people have eggs. And you can eat as many eggs as you like. People are scared of the cholesterol. So I teach you about why cholesterol is not harmful. Your liver makes its own cholesterol. The less cholesterol you take in, the more your liver is going to make cholesterol. So I say you can have eggs, you can have any which way you want, but do not have it with any carbohydrates. So you can have an omelette, you can have boiled eggs, you can have poached eggs, any which way you want to have them. And then for people who can't take eggs or don't like eggs, I say get Greek yogurt and get the high fat one, and you can have those with nuts and berries for breakfast, but you should not have any carbs. So that sort of introduces the first low carb meal of the day. And I mention eggs because they're very versatile and easy to make and quick. So that's what I normally suggest. Then we have Rejoice. Rejoice has a question.
Okay, thank you very much, Auntie Eva. I want to ask, my first question is about the fasting.
Mhm.
Let's say when you fast, what is the best type of food to introduce to the system immediately after you break your fast? What is the best type of food to eat after fasting? And
Okay.
then the second one is about, as most of we African women, I don't know whether it is only we who have it, this fibroid
Mhm.
that is making most women now you see as if we are pregnant, but we are not pregnant enough. It's not belly fat. Not until the operation is done. After you do the operation, to it's still there. What can you tell us about it? Thank you very much.
Right, okay. So let's talk about the best food for fasting. It depends on the length of your fast. So if it's 18 hours, then you probably can, if you're breaking it, eggs will be very, very good, you know. But if you're doing an extended fast, I sometimes do them like 40 hours, you know, much longer and things like that, then you want to just have a light meal. So you can have some yogurt, you know, or you can have some eggs. But I wouldn't just go back, oh, I've fasted, so I'm going to reward myself with a bowl of fufu and meat, because that doesn't work. And then also, if you eat the wrong food when you're breaking your fast, you notice that you will have watery diarrhea, but that's only after extended fast. So when people on my program, when, you know, after several months of doing the program, I do advise them to do extended fasts as well. And they tend to do very, very well, especially if they've hit a weight loss stall and they're not breaking through, you know, their body is used to what they're eating. I'm like, let's introduce a fast and see. And then they break it with, you know, just a light meal. You don't go straight for the meal that you would usually eat, because, and you know, the funny thing about fasting is when you do fast, you find that even eating, breaking the fast is very difficult. You're not that hungry. And you know, after day 2, it becomes very easy to fast. And you might notice that you might start sleeping really, really well. And you just feel wonderful. You don't feel weak. And it's just really good. And then the second thing was about fibroids. So with fibroids, you know, they grow and they are fed by blood sugar. So when your blood sugar is low, then the fibroids should really shrink and it will discourage them from growing. So a lot of the lifestyle doctors, they talk about some of their clients when they support them with the lifestyle and get them to do low carb. Some women even get pregnant. And I remember one of the doctors, he's quite famous, he was saying he had 2 clients, both got pregnant. One was very happy and one was very angry with him because she wasn't wanting to get pregnant. So it really, really does help, especially with polycystic ovarian syndrome. That is insulin resistance at the ovaries, and that when that improves, people easily get pregnant. So it is a very good way for fertility for both men and women. Right. Okay. We have a Peace. Peace, you have a question.
Yes, what sort of fruits we can have alternatively than yogurt or egg for breakfast? For example, I have a blueberry sometimes for breakfast. Is that okay?
Okay,
Or
please,
strawberries?
you have blueberries and strawberries on their own for breakfast.
I normally mix them with some cereals
Oh,
for breakfast because I cannot eat egg every morning for
mm,
breakfast. And
yeah,
I cannot have a yogurt because it bloat me up.
yes,
I don't drink normal milk. I have to have lactose free
okay, all right,
or oat milk. So it will be difficult to have egg every morning for breakfast.
okay. So
What do you recommend?
one thing that a lot of people say is, I think it's always in our minds because, you know, there's some people who eat Weetabix every day for like 20 years for breakfast. Some people have oats every day for breakfast. So when people say I can't eat eggs every day, is it something, what is making you think you can't? And the thing is, if you are hungry enough, you will enjoy your eggs every day. Now, the other thing about having blueberries and cereal for breakfast, that is a very, very high carb meal. You understand? So if on the program, I do say if people want to have, like, people like fruit a lot, and I do say, okay, you can have a handful of blueberries or strawberries, just one hand, not a lot, but for you, I would say if you can't have eggs and you can't have the Greek yogurt, then I would say have like a tuna salad for breakfast, an egg salad for breakfast with avocados or something like that. But the protein has to be a lot. You can have sardines, you can have mackerel, you understand. Those are other alternatives that you can have. Okay, is that
What about nuts? Are we allowed nuts?
Yes, but as long as you don't eat the whole packet, you can have nuts in moderation. You don't want to have too much because about 100 grams of nuts is equivalent to about 19 grams of carbs. And we want to keep the carbs down. So you understand. If you're overeating nuts, then that's going to bring your carb levels up. We have, let me see the questions. Oh, there's quite a few questions here. So, what about oats? Oats are high carbs. So, yeah. And, I give people a list because they all ask me, what about quinoa? What about oats? What about, all sorts, green plantain? They're all carbs. All you need to see is it a fat? Is it a protein? If it's not a fat and a protein, then it's carbs. Yeah, they say lots of things are good to manage cholesterol. Don't you see? That's on the program. I teach you about the myths about foods, and we follow these myths, and our healths are never improving. So it is very good.
Okay.
Please mute yourself. Okay, thank you. So kefir is very good. It's a fermented food, and especially for people who have gut issues, I will recommend that you start eating fermented foods. So kefir, sauerkraut, and kimchi. Very, very good. It sort of heals your stomach. I myself, before I started, I used to be allergic to dairy, and now I can eat dairy because I've had a lot of fermented kimchi, and I think my gut has healed now. So I enjoy dairy. I have yogurt, and I'm very, very pleased about that. Avocado is very good for you because it's high fat. Someone says, try organic egg, it may help. Now, one of the things I had a client who said, no, I can't eat eggs. I can't eat eggs. And I said, why try eating the yolk on its own? And ever since she has egg yolk for her meals, and she's very happy. She's not allergic to egg yolk, but she's allergic to the egg white. So that has worked. So that's another thing one can try if one is allergic to eggs. Allergic to nuts, so not an option. That is from SA. Right, here we are. We're over now. So we've come to the end. Let me see. I can put my contact details. Let's see if I like to put my contact details in the chat, but that's not working. Let me see if I can. And we've come to the end. Thank you all very, very much. Let me see if I can get up my contact details. And if you want to get in touch with me, please do. And I promise you that would be the best decision that you've made because, you need to thrive. You don't need to suffer. You don't need to follow the mantra of the so-called healthy foods. You can eat naturally. You can come off medication. That's not your portion. It doesn't have to happen. I know you might think that, your whole family's got it, so you have to have it. That is not true. Both my parents had diabetes and cardiovascular disease, and I don't have it. And I'm approaching my 60th birthday. So, it can be done. You just need the willpower to do it. And I wish you all the best. Let me try and get up my contact details. Yes.
Okay. On behalf of them is Dulwich Parish leadership. We want to say a very big thank you for your time, for
You are
taking
welcome.
the presentation. I think we are going home equipped, and we will begin to look after ourselves and to come out of certain things that we are entangled in. So thank you. And you know, Effa is a daughter to this is Grace Alipo. Grace Alipo is Effa's mother. So she's one of our own sister. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you too. Someone asked about GLP-1s. Contact me and I will tell you about it. Yeah, okay. Well, I have very strong views. All right. Thank you very, very much. Thank you all for
Thank
spending
you.
your time with me.
Can we have the contact number, please?
Yes, we put it in, I put it in the chat, and you can contact Reverend Susie as well. She'll give it to you. Can
Okay.
you see it? It's in the chat. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And I wish you great health. I want you to thrive. And you know, I go to conferences and there are not many Black people there. Please, let's start taking this forward. You can do it on your own. You can do it with support. Okay, take care. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye. God bless you.
And you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye. Thank you.